Vice Consul and Minister Joe Oliver, Mesdames et Messieurs. I first of all will say welcome and thank you for coming to City Hall and to Nathan Phillips Square today. On the suggestion of Councillor Norm Kelly, I asked earlier in the week that the French flag be raised on the ceremonial flagpole over there as a show of sympathy and solidarity with the victims of this week's terrorist attack and with the French people, and it flew there for a couple of days this week. À la suggestion de Norm Kelly, j'ai demandé que le drapeau français flottera à l'hôtel de ville cette semaine comme une démonstration de sympathie et de solidarité avec les victimes des attentats terroristes de cette semaine et avec la France. And that is the same reason that we're here today, but it goes beyond that. As the Minister said so well and the Vice Consul, we are here to declare our determined support for their values, our values, which place at the very heart of our very being freedom, including, in particular in this case, freedom of expression and respect for one another, whatever our religious or political differences. C'est la même raison pour laquelle nous sommes ici aujourd'hui, mais cela va plus loin. Nous sommes également ici pour déclarer notre soutien déterminé à leurs valeurs, nos valeurs qui placent au cœur notre liberté, compris en particulier dans ce cas la liberté d'expression et le respect de l'autre indépendamment. Make no mistake, the people committing these horrific acts in France and in other places around the world are terrorists and they are deviants. They do not for a minute represent any nationality or any religion. They are trying to destabilize and even to destroy the very foundations of the society that we cherish, and they must be stopped. And this means we stand in solidarity not only with our brothers and sisters in France and the victims of these horrific acts this week, but we stand in solidarity with each other and with our own values for real. And that means consistent support, not just today, consistent support for freedom of expression. It means supporting measures needed to defend democracy. It means avoiding any temptation to stereotype people of one religion or culture or another, and it means identifying and addressing instances in which people are encouraging the violent or illegal undermining of our values. Recent events, including the tragedy in France, are a wake-up call for people like us who far too often need one. We forget that we have lost many people in past wars we fought specifically to defend these very same values. Sometimes I think it seems as if we've concluded that our values are so superior that no one would possibly try to destroy them. Well, while our values do represent the gold standard in terms of freedom, we know that it is complacent and dangerous to think that there are no threats to those values. So let us go away from here today determined to defend our shared values, here and abroad, each and every day, and to support doing so actively and together. Let it be done in honor of those whose lives were taken this week and in recent weeks and in past decades when people went to war to defend those very values. Ce qui est demandé de nous est un petit morceau de ce qui était demandé des générations précédentes des Canadiens, à défendre les mêmes valeurs, la même démocratie que nous a donné la vie que nous avons ici à Toronto, Canada, et la liberté d'être ici aujourd'hui et de nous exprimer comme nous le souhaitons. What is being asked of us is a tiny fraction of what was asked of previous generations of Canadians in defense of those very same values. The same democracy which has given us the wonderful life we have here in Toronto, Canada, and the freedom to stand here at our City Hall, at the heart of our civic democracy today, and express ourselves as we wish. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
On the Israeli Apartheid group that has marched in Pride before, in 2011, the city manager, Joe Penichetti, concluded that there's no legal precedent to suggest that this group should not be included. Why do you think that they should not be included, and why would you strip funding to the Pride Parade?
This is a matter of principle for me, and to have people indirectly benefiting or participating in an event that is publicly funded in part, any public event, I don't care what event it is, who are spewing hateful language about other people who live in this community, I just don't think it's something we should allow or encourage. And so I would say the first thing we might have to do is change the policy and simply say any event that uses or allows to be used this word Israeli apartheid as part of their proceedings, that they would not be eligible for public funding, and that would make it very easy to just say no to organizations that choose to do that. Israeli apartheid people, so-called, I even hate using the phrase myself. I just don't think there's any place for things that drive people apart or create divisions or even make fun of communities that make up a part of the Toronto we love.
What would you say to people who division, but are you worried about losing LGBT votes with this recent announcement about Queers Against Israeli Apartheid?
Well, it's a matter of principle for me, and I think a lot of people who support Pride as I do and understand its fundamental importance to the community and support public funding for it would also support what I said, which is that we probably have to have a better, more explicit policy than to say that if you're going to use words like that, which in my view are hateful and are abusive of a community that shares our city of Toronto with the LGBT community and everybody else, that we shouldn't publicly fund those, or they can withdraw the use of those words. They have a choice. I do not think that we should be supporting with public funds organizations that end up spewing language that is disrespectful and hateful of other parts of our community.
The solicitor's opinion was actually based on the federal hate crimes law. How can the city actually change a policy that's based on federal hate crimes legislation, hate speech legislation?
I think the city could simply say what I suggested, and in fact it was right in their own documentation I read out tonight, that if the words Israeli apartheid were to be used, that this would be deemed to be a violation of the policy. You just change the policy to say those words represent a violation of the policy, and therefore that would allow funding not to proceed for any organization that allowed that to happen. I just think we have to take a stand on these kinds of things. We can't have that happen here. We pride ourselves in this city on the fact that it is the place where everybody is respected and where people are brought together, and I intend to be a mayor who's going to do that each and every day that I'm in office. And that's a matter of principle for me.